The Ready to Roar Crystal Postgame Show, presented by Southern Ford Dealers. Here's Sports Director Chris Porter.
Oh, not the outcome Jaguar fans had hoped for as the Houston Texans beat up on our Jacksonville Jaguars 26-3. Gardner Minshew looked like a rookie today as the offense just could not get it going. And the young QB had several turnovers. Maybe the pressure of Nick Foles hovering over his shoulder and possibly becoming the man Week 11 was in his head. I don't know, but more than 84,000 fans filled the stadium here in London on a losing note. Let's get you right to the highlights, my friends. The Jaguars' 7th consecutive year playing here in London. And let me tell you something, Deshaun Watson, he is a force to be reckoned with. Here he's going to hook up with Jordan Atkins for a first down to keep the drive alive on 4th and 1. Then you can't give good quarterbacks opportunities like this. Watson hooks up with Darren Fells right there for the touchdown, and the Texans are already up 10-0. Second quarter, and here come the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gardner Minshew is going to hook up with Armstead here. He's rolling. Yeah, I just might be 31-yard pickup, but that would lead to a Josh Lambo 30-yard field goal to make it 9-3 Texans. That was the score at the half. Third quarter now, Jaguars opening drive. 4th down, they try to fake the field goal, but the ball is get him some cough medicine, Logan Cook, because he fumbles, turnovers on down, and the Texans would take over still in the third. 12-3 Texans. Carlos Hyde, the former Jaguar. You know, this is what really frustrates you. We didn't see any of this when he was with us. A huge pickup right there, and that play would set up this. A couple of plays later, Duke Johnson is going to take it in, make reservations for 6. That made it 19-3 Texans, and really that's all they needed. Fourth quarter now. Minshew, as I told you, he struggled all day long. Going to be picked off by Bradley Roby right here. And Minshew had 3 turnovers on the day. He had 1 fumble, 2 interceptions. When it was all said and done, the Jaguars lost 26-3. Now, let's take a look at the Jaguars' remaining games this season. You know, they got the bye week next week. And then they've got 2 big road games coming up at Indy, at Tennessee. Then finally they're back home December 1st hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. After the Buccaneers, the Los Angeles Chargers, before getting back on the road to face the Oakland Raiders, then the Atlanta Falcons, and then finally on December 29th, they've got a regular season finale at home against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, as we wait for Doug Marrone to get to the podium and brief reporters on what went wrong for our Jaguars, let's bring in 2 of our fine analysts, James Coleman and Tony Wiggins, across the pond back in Jacksonville. And James and Tony, for the first time, Gardner Minshew really played like a rookie today. What's the deal, and why do the Texans seem to have his number, Tony?
I think I was waiting for another really, really good, high-caliber team to play against him to see what he can do. And I'm going to put a little bit of this on the coaches, because I'm going to assume Minshew is as good as everyone thinks he is. They coached today like Blake Bortles was still their quarterback, and he was just a little bit more accurate and could read defenses just a little bit better. Either he's not as good as everyone thinks, and they know it, or they coached him like he was a rookie, and I think that was a big problem.
I believe it all comes down to coaching, and you have to understand what your guy is able to do very well, and you have to exploit that, especially from the wide receiver position and all the other tools you got. And this is a team that kind of went away from what they do very, very well. Again, they can't get down 2 scores. That exacerbates the situation. Now, they're a good team and they're up 2 scores, and that's what you have to do. You have to dictate time of possession, do those things. Actually, almost the Houston Texans game plan. That's what you probably should have done against the Texans. But what you saw was the Texans dictate what the game was going to be, and you saw the Jags try to react, and it just got out of hand very quick.
Guys, I felt like when I was watching this game, it was deja vu all over again. It looked like another week 2 performance as far as the coaching is concerned. Even at halftime, it was kind of a similar score in Houston. When it came to making adjustments, it appears the coaching staff made none. What's the deal there?
I mean, sometimes you get shell shocked too. Maybe they're still got that the hangover, that you get when you go when you fly a couple time zones over. But I really don't know what the deal was. But what you saw was they just kind of get away from what they do, and then sometimes Gardner just gets a little bit too excited, tries to make plays too much, and doesn't do what he's coached to do. But I mean, you add that to the fact that the game plan just wasn't effective, and again the adjustments. I always question Like, was Filippo, is he the greatest OC in the world? Or was it a case of you had better wide receivers, better offensive line, and you had a good quarterback? Or is this also something set up to make it, less bad when the inevitable what looks like the inevitable happens when Nick Foles becomes a quarterback?
Right, but you talk about adjustments, it's hard to adjust with a fist in your mouth. Because if you'd have told either one of us that if we'd asked the football gods who's going to win this game, and they said the team that's the most physical on both sides of the ball, not one of us would have thought the Jaguars would lose. They got beat up on both sides of the ball by a team that came in here banged up. That's the most disheartening part of it. The disheartening part of it is not that Gardner finally looks like a rookie, or that Wash doesn't make adjustments, or that they played against, I think, the guy that's the leading candidate for MVP along with Aaron Rodgers. It's that they got whooped from the start to the end of this game on both sides of the ball.
And it shouldn't have happened. The offensive line actually got a gift given to them with J.J. Watt being out, and honestly, you really didn't see much of a difference.
No.
Guys, we've seen a pattern here this season, and some people are saying that when Minshew is up against a team that is very talented, he struggles. Should Jaguar fans, if they are to stay with him at quarterback, be concerned about that?
I think they should be a little bit, but here's the thing. Regardless of what happened today, this decision should have been made already. Right. You have to have your finger on the pulse of your team, not the media, not the fans, not T-shirts. You as a coach have to know what you have and what you don't have, and that decision should not have been decided based on what Gardner Minshew did today.
I mean, this is the NFL. I mean, every team has talent. Most teams have superstars that they want to go ahead and exploit and do things like that. Week to week, you sit back and you think you have the perfect game plan, and a different team shows up. It's like I used to joke. You think you playing Duke, and then Miami shows up. The great Miami team show up. So that's kind of what might have happened here. But I think what T-Wig said, you got to know what's best for your team. And week to week, things change, and people have good games, people have bad games. Gardner's one of those guys who it looks like he has bad games against teams with above 500 record, but you got to beat the team that's on your schedule, good or bad. And if he didn't do it, then he wouldn't be in the position that he's in right now.
Again, we are waiting to hear from Jaguars head coach Doug Marrone. The Jaguars falling here to the Houston Texans at historic Wembley Stadium, 26-3. It is the Jaguars' second consecutive loss here in the UK. As you know, they lost last season to the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's stay on the offensive side of the ball, shall we? Leonard Fournette, as you guys know, he's been playing exceptional football. But today, guys, the Texans were able to contain Fournette.
I mean, that comes from a lack of innovation in the running game. I mean, when Leonard Fournette does a really good job of playing smash mouth football, running downhill. But again, you could take that away by having guys play gap discipline. So what happens when guys are playing gap discipline, you put different counter type plays in, which essentially you start to the right, go to the left, or go to the left, go to the right. You put in sprint draws. There's really no variety. And the key point is if you're taking him away in the running game, then get him more involved in the passing game. There was a couple times where they were able to get it to him, and it was an easy first down. That's really the bump if the teams are good or not. The difference is when they're getting Leonard Fournette the ball in a variety of different ways, this is a better team. Like, stop trying to make it quarterback dependent. Circle it around the guy that truly is the best player on your offense right now.
And here's what they did. It goes back to the New Orleans game. It's gap and hold. We're not going to let Fournette beat us. We're not going to let a scrambling quarterback beat us. We're going to force you to either drop back on a 5-step drop, plant that foot, climb the pocket, and zip the ball 25 yards down the middle of the field or on a deep post or a 9 route. And if you can't do it, guess what? You won't beat us because we're not going to let you do this other stuff. And see, Nick Foles does exactly what I just said. Right. He will plant that back foot and zip the ball down the middle of the field. I saw a football game yesterday where they didn't have a chance in Tallahassee, because they knew the dude couldn't throw the ball down the field in the middle of the field. And it looks like the Texans, as banged up as they are, did that exact same thing today, and there was no innovation from the offensive coordinator. And I'll give him a pass. He needs to answer for it. Maybe he doesn't believe the kid can do it because that's what he acted like. If I'm Gardner Minshew, I'm the most pissed off dude in that locker room with the way that they called this game.
And we got to give the Texans defense some credit. When they weren't getting pressure on Gardner Minshew, their secondary, even though it's banged up, they held up. And even when Minshew had time, he just could not find anybody open. Now let's talk about the defensive side of the ball show. And Deshaun Watson, as you know, is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He can beat you with his arms. He can beat you with his legs. And Tony Wiggins, he showed that today.
Yeah, I mean, Deshaun Watson, man, is, like I said, along with Aaron Rodgers, he is the MVP. With a banged-up unit, with wide receivers they already missing players and then guys leaving the game, with a banged-up, patched-up offensive line, he is lifting that team up. And teams are taking Deshaun Watson, the Hopkins away from him, and they're still managing to score points. I think he's right now, along with Aaron Rodgers, the MVP.
I mean, the difference, like you would have thought we lost J.J. Watt, our best pass rushers. I mean, they effectively negated him. When you look at the way he was able to scramble up the middle, that means we're not getting pushed by our D tackles. And you see the pressures coming off the edge. It's not a very complicated thing. It's point, counterpoint. And Deshaun Watson just did a much better job of that. And it's the reason why he's one of the best players in the league. We had a chance to get that guy.
Right, and let me use this word, ticked off. I want to see if Doug Marrone at his presser is ticked off, because he should be, because they got pushed around. And at this juncture of the season, 9 weeks in, fighting for a position in the division, you should not get whipped physically. And I think they got whipped physically.
Fair.
And speaking of Doug Marrone, we're still waiting to hear from him at his press conference. Jaguars losing here in London today, 26-3 to their arch rival in the division, the Houston Texans. Now let's talk about the $88 million question. You know, some say, majority that I talked to say, the Jaguars should stick with Gardner Minshew. The team has rallied around him. He has not only the first coach, but the NFL on fire. Tony Wiggins, I'm going to start with you, because earlier here in the post-game show, you alluded to the fact that you feel there's no question that you need to go with Nick Foles, and this question will be for you as well, James. Tony, who are you going with? And guys, when you decide, tell me why.
I'm going with Foles, but I'm making clear what I believe. I believe they need to do what they think is best, but that decision should have been made before this game. Because if you're talking about one bad game eliminating the guys as starting quarterback, then you might as well dump all of them across the NFL, because they all have these games. He's built up enough cachet that this game alone should not have been the deciding factor. But I go with Foles because no matter what they say, I firmly believe they have a limited playbook because of Gardner's specific skill set, and I think Nick Foles provides exactly what they're missing.
I think you go with the hot hand, or the guy who got you here, for a couple more games, and this is the only reason. You really want to see what position and what you really got with him. Can he bounce back after a terrible performance? And if he doesn't, then you all right, we know we got a quality backup for the next couple of years, and you give Nick Foles that job. But what happens if Nick Foles goes in there and he's not who we thought he was? You actually have now mentally handicapped your quarterback from a football perspective, because you went away from him. And that's something that people don't really understand, is you gave him the starting job, you allowed him to be able to prove himself. He's done a very good job outside of a couple games, and you take that away from him, it's hard to get that momentum back once it's gone.
The hard part for me with any of this stuff that looks beyond winning the next game and then the one after that is that you're 4-5, but you're not that far off, and you're already thinking about the optics of the future. When now?
Right.
When is this organization and when is this franchise going to face what's in front of them? These guys can't afford to coach as if they already know that they're going to be back, and they're going to walk in Khan's office and use the fact that they had to start a rookie quarterback for 7 or 8 weeks as an excuse. If you're going to use him as an excuse or a crutch, then that means you shouldn't be playing him. You don't get away with doing both things. And to me, this team is they can run off 6 in a row. Now, they got to figure out who they're going to use to run those 6 games off, and it's fine with me, whoever they decided to do. But don't come in here with this attitude that we're going to see what happens because we're afraid to break somebody's confidence for the future. Win now. Win now. Do whatever you can. You have to act like you're coaching to save your job.
I just never thought that. I thought they would be a 6-10 team with Nick Foles. So, I mean, right now you're on that same trajectory with the rookie. and he hasn't done bad outside of a couple games. So my whole thought process on this is you play the guy who the locker room is rallied behind. They've made plays. They stunk as a team today. It wasn't just Gardner. Gardner's got the fumbles and the interceptions. Those are going to stand out. But the defense had a hard time containing probably the league MVP. The wide receivers weren't open and the running game didn't work. So as a collective unit, they did a great job sticking together and being bad. So, but when they've done well as a team, and it's all centered around that guy. So the same thing, that it's a similar. Dance with the lady you bring, no matter how she looks.
All right, guys, and don't go anywhere because we'll hear from you a little bit more in just a second. Good news for the Jacksonville Jaguars is they have an extra week to decide who's going to be their quarterback and an extra week to finally get this offense back on track. Now, we are waiting to hear from head coach Doug Marrone, who at some point is going to have his press conference here, and as soon as he speaks, we're going to bring it to you live. Jaguars falling to the Texans today, 26-3. You're watching our post-game Ready to Roar show live here from London. Much, much more after this timeout. 22 years young with a promising NFL career ahead of him when this happened.
There was a rollover? Yeah, rolled over. He lost his arm. He's conscious, but he lost his arm.
Former Trinity Christian star Kendrick Norton and his girlfriend involved in a serious accident that ended his NFL career.
Drifting like in and out of consciousness a little bit, so it was just crazy, just being, that close to death.
I'm Chris Porter here in Miami. How Kendrick Norton turned his pain into purpose. Monday night at 11, only on First Coast News.
The Ready to Roar Crystal Postgame Show, presented by Southern Ford Dealers. Here's Sports Director Chris Porter.
Hello, everybody. Chris Porter live here in London at historic Wembley Stadium, where today our Jacksonville Jaguars fell to their AFC South Division rival, the Houston Texans, 26-3. The Jaguars now one game under 500 heading into their bye week. Doug Marrone at the podium. Let's hear from him.
Well, Gene, I haven't spoken to either quarterback yet, and I hate, talking to the media with my plans. But, my plans were, again, the disappointment of the team, not performing well will be on my mind now for the next 48 hours. I think after those 48 hours are over, I'm going to step away a little bit and take a break because I don't have to make a decision or have time. That's what I'm going to talk to the quarterbacks about. And then I'll tell them probably right before we come back on Sunday, we'll be able to discuss where we're going to go. That's pretty much my plan.
Is it fair?
His plan as far as the quarterback situation is concerned, a decision will be made the Sunday before they come back. Will it be Gardner Minshew? Will it be Nick Foles? Even though he's waiting and still delaying to make that decision, the question is not going to go away until it is answered. Now, as you know, we had a watch party over on the south side of Jacksonville. Our Jocelyn Howard has been there all day. Let's check in with her to see how Jaguar fans are feeling after the loss. Jocelyn, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. I mean, yes, here at Culhane's Irish Pub, we did wish for a better outcome, but I have to say we still kept the party going, and it was still pretty fun here. One super fan I have here is Cece. Cece did stay the whole time. Some people did end up leaving. They were a little discouraged, but Cece, how do you feel that the game went today?
I feel good. We definitely got some work to do. It's been a long season. The team definitely, we got some good things going for us, and it's going to be a great season. It's definitely a good future for us.
Awesome. And we did see all the mustaches today. As always, it's been going on for a while this season. Do you think Minshew Mania may soon be over?
It was definitely something good for us to rally around. I mean, Jacksonville always needs something to rally around, but all good things come to an end. I mean, we definitely invested in Foles, so it's definitely that time to see what Foles can do for us.
All right, and I heard you came in here pretty early today. You were making sure you guys got a table. What time did you come in?
It's never early for a Jazz game. 8 o'clock, we got here. We had some friends save us some seats to make sure we had some good seats to be able to enjoy our Jags. So 8 o'clock, not too early.
Not too early. All right, thank you so much, Cece. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Jocelyn. Our Jaguar fans back home in Jacksonville. Enjoyed a great time over on the south side of Jacksonville. Now, we heard from Doug Marrone just a few seconds ago saying that he's going to make that quarterback decision the Sunday before they come back. Meanwhile, let's hear from the quarterback, Gardner Minshew, today, who was 26 of 46, 297 yards, had 3 turnovers, 2 INTs, 1 fumble. Let's see what Minshew had to say about the team's performance.
Yeah, it sucks, man. Didn't execute at times. Didn't make the plays we need to win. So, yeah, it's no fun.
Anything else?
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
From Gardner Minshew, did not have much to say after today's loss. But again, the Jacksonville Jaguars falling here at historic Wembley Stadium, 26-3. The Jaguars now 1 game under 500. The good news is they've got an extra week to get things right. By the way, you're watching Ready to Roar, our post-game show right here on ABC 25, and we'll have much more after this timeout.
Ready to Roar Crystal Postgame Show, presented by Southern Ford Dealers. Here's Sports Director Chris Porter.
Welcome back to historic Wembley Stadium here in London, folks, where today our Jacksonville Jaguars got beat up by their AFC South rival, the Houston Texans, 26-3. Let's bring back in our analysts now who are in studio back in Jacksonville. And guys, we heard from Doug Marrone saying that he's going to make that decision the week before, the Sunday before the team is set to come back. Your feelings on him, his decision to wait and not make the decision sooner than later. Start with you, Tony.
I think the fact that there is a decision that has to be made means we all know what the decision probably is. If Minshew was doing everything that they thought that they could do to win games, considering the statistical performance that he's had and the way that he's unified this team through all of this chaos, it would be a no-brainer if it was going to be Minshew, in my opinion.
I think that's definitely a way to look at it. I could definitely understand that, but I also think he doesn't want to make it an emotional decision right now. If Minshew is the guy that you were thinking, and then you just look at this, you'd be a fool to not consider Foles, especially with his recent history as a player, and just again the common influence of a veteran. You'd be a fool, but also when you see this debacle and how he kind of imploded toward the end, you might want to go watch film. See if it really was, see what the real flaws were, and can you fix those? Can you coach it up to execute a little bit better? Or is this just something where you really do need to go in a different direction? To be honest with you, good Nick Foles comes off the bench.
All right, let's move on quickly. When the Jaguars come back after the bye week, they've got a very tough divisional game against the division-leading Indianapolis Colts. And T-Wig, they better bring their A game because the Colts, they're balanced on both sides of the ball.
You're right. They are a very good football team, and that goes into some more discussion about Foles. He hasn't played in 10 weeks. It'll be 10 weeks. At that point, he's only played a quarter since last year. Therefore, you're going to bring him back against a team like Indianapolis that plays very well. You got to expect that there's going to be some rust also, so maybe that factors into your decision as well, that you can't afford to put him out there against a really good team like that when he hasn't played very much.
Also, we know that offense is going to be clicking, and they got some very mean, nasty offensive linemen, which that's what I like. But and can our D-line actually wake up and play to their ability?
All right, guys, again, the Colts and Jaguars 2 weeks from this Sunday. Jaguars losing here today to the Texans 26-3. Let's hear more from Doug Marrone's presser. All right, so we still don't have Doug Marrone quite yet. We'll take a timeout and we'll come back. Jaguars again losing today to the Texans 26-3. I guarantee you we'll have that sound turned around after this timeout.
The Ready to Roar Crystal Postgame Show, presented by Southern Ford Dealers. Here's Sports Director Chris Porter.
The Jaguars losing today, and they're home away from home, historic Wembley Stadium. They lost in front of more than 84,000 fans to the Houston Texans, 26-3. Let's hear more now from head coach Doug Marrone.
As he's come off the field about the interceptions and turnovers, has he expressed any opinion?
I think, when you get behind and you're trying to make plays and you're moving around in the pocket and, the ball sails a little bit, those things are going to happen. You don't want it to happen. I'm sure we're not trying to do that, but, those balls were, got high and and they were able to get interceptions. It's unfortunate. It's not what's planned for, and but he was moving around there a little bit, so that always plays into it too.
You alluded to it a little bit in your opening statement, but there was 3 near sacks in the first half. Tim Ryan and Unique and Gakwe had 3 opportunities to get him down. Those missed sacks resulted in a field goal, a touchdown, and then the missed field goal near the end of the half. But in terms of flipping, the score and sort of getting the momentum back your way, how big were not getting him down?
Yeah, Gene, the way I would like to answer that question is that, first of all, it's a great job being able to beat someone, right? I mean, what I'm saying? Like, to get to a position where you're able to make that play. I think the guy we were playing against, the quarterback, rather than looking at it as, hey, listen, we missed something, I look at it as that guy's just unbelievable. I mean, his fluidity, I don't know if that's even the right word, of when he gets hit or when he gets grabbed and he can move and escape. I've seen him do it against everyone, and it's tough. The one thing our guys are doing, those guys were doing on those plays, you talk about effort, it's all you can get out of it. Sure, will we want them to get him down? Absolutely. But I don't want to make it like, it's a missed sack where they ran by and did something poorly. I look at it as the quarterback was just exceptional in being able to avoid it. I hope I answered that.
You did.
Thank you.
How much does the missed field goal, the potential trick play, that going wrong, how much does that hurt the momentum of the team?
I think it does. I think football is a game of momentum, and I think that's something that, is disappointing. I thought that Logan did a great job getting the snap down. Talked to Josh coming off, and he said that he didn't feel he was going to be able to kick it. And it's just unfortunate because that was the first drive of the second half in a 9-3 game. I look back at, 2 things. It was right before the half. We wanted to hit the receiver, go down, call a timeout, and then either take a shot at a long field goal or throw a Hail Mary. We missed that opportunity. I don't know what would have happened. And then, obviously you kick the field goal, get a little bit of momentum, at least that first drive coming out, you score. Then you wind up giving them the ball somewhere close to the 50, and I thought our defense did a good job just holding them to 3.
Sorry if I'm going to ask this, but how do you think the line held up against their front JJ?
I think they're people always say, and I said this before during the week, J.J. Watt's a Hall of Fame player, great player. But they have a lot of other good players up front. I think when you look at them defensively and you look at the guys up front, I said it during the week, I think DJ Reader is probably one of the best players, that I know that we play against, on a consistent basis. And not a lot of guys know about him because they're not in our division. But, all those guys up front are very strong, very solid. Anthony Weaver's their defensive line coach. I think he does a great job. So we knew coming in that would be a battle.
Last one, exchange of words with the Houston bench at one point. Do you know anything about that? And was that just a mark of the frustrations that the players were going through at that point?
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I don't have my hearing aids in, so I apologize. No, that's all right.
There was a row in the fourth quarter. AJ Bowie got involved with the Houston bench at one point. Was that just a mark of the frustrations? Do you know anything about what happened to spark AJ's response?
The dust up on the sideline with Bowie on their side.
Oh, I didn't see what happened. No, I didn't have a chance to talk to him, so I don't know. He'd be better to answer that question.
All right, thank you, Coach. We're going to have Minshew here in a second.
You were listening to head coach Doug Marrone. His team lost today to the Houston Texans 26-3. This team has a lot of questions that they've got to get answered, but the good thing is they've got to bye before they get back on the field against the Colts in 2 weeks. Much, much more from historic Wembley Stadium. You're watching our Ready to Roar post-game show right here on ABC 25. We're back after this timeout.
The Ready to Roar Crystal Postgame Show, presented by Southern Ford Dealers. Here's Sports Director Chris Porter.
Welcome back to historic Wembley Stadium here in London. The Jaguars home away from home, and the outcome was not what the Jaguars and their fans had hoped for. They lost today to the Houston Texans 26-3, but the good news is the Jaguars have an extra week to try and figure things out. Let's get you inside the locker room to see what the players had to say about today's loss.
Every loss is a major disappointment, especially if you're a competitor. And you know, speaking for myself, and I believe I can speak for some of the guys in this offense, we're competitors. You know, we want to go out there and we want to compete regardless of who it is, whatever they've done in the past. We want to go out there and compete at a high level, and today we didn't do that. So that's a big disappointment in and of ourselves.
No. I mean, you want to be happy? I mean, he had a bad game, so what you expect?
Can you talk about what he's done these weeks, filling in and coming in as a rookie?
Say what?
Coming in as a rookie these past few weeks, that people may be quick to jump on one game. What can you say about what he's put together these few weeks?
I mean, he's been doing a great job. You know what I mean? Like I said, he had one bad game, so it happens. It happens to the best of everyone.
Gardner's a great player. You can't put nothing past it. You know, he's been doing a great job for us, and I love him to death. And you know, you can't define a player for one game. You know, because at the end of the day, he works hard and he always does good things for us.
The rookies have been such a big part of this team. Something to learn from today for this class.
Most definitely. You know, just keep going, working hard, getting better every week, staying consistent. That's all you can do every single week, just stay consistent. But, you know, it's a learning experience. Every game you get the chance to go out there and play against the best of the best.
All right, and you're looking live here at historic Wembley Stadium, where you can see the crew here is cleaning up the field, and I think they've got another week of International Series football here. The folks here in London love it. We had more than 84,000 fans watching the Jaguars lose today to the Houston Texans 26-3. We've got much more Ready to Roar, the postgame show after this timeout.
The Ready to Roar Crystal Postgame Show, presented by Southern Ford Dealers. Here's Sports Director Chris Porter.
Game-changing moment came with about 11 minutes remaining in the game. At this time, the Jaguars were only down by 2 scores. They go for it on 4th down. Chris Conley can't come up with the catch. Turnovers on down. Jaguars losing 26-3. Let's hear from the quarterback.
Yeah, it sucks, man. Didn't execute at times. Didn't make the plays we need to win. So, yeah, it's no fun.
Anything else?
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
So Gardner Minshew, 26 of 46, 297 yards, no touchdowns. He had 3 turnovers, 2 INTs, and 1 fumble. Jaguars have next week off. Their next game will be against the Indianapolis Colts. Hopefully they can get things right, and by then, hopefully we'll know who the starting quarterback will be. Folks, our coverage here from London is just getting fired up. Be sure to join me tonight at 6 and 6:30 for more live team coverage. Again, the Jaguars losing to the Houston Texans today, 26-3. For all of us here at First Coast News, hope you've enjoyed our shows today. I'll see you starting tonight at 6. Good night, everybody.